So hey there everybody, it's Matt here, and today we're going to be talking about country music and spirituality and religion, particularly God, right? And so when tuning into country music, you know, I'm a fan of all kinds of music. I like rock music, I like country music, I like bluegrass, I like a lot of world music, and I think that there's a lot to be learned from music, and there's a connection between our spirituality and music, right? So in this episode, we're going to explore that a little bit. And this could probably take more than one video to do, right? But particularly for today's video, we're going to be talking about country music. And the spiritual element, it's not just a stylistic choice. There's a message behind it. And we're going to explore why God figures so prominently in so much country music, especially the early country music that was developed in the southern United States throughout the 20th century. And kind of from these back roads to the American heartland, there's a story here, a common element that connects country music to our spirituality. I'm Matt. Come along with me as we join into this conversation about country music, God, and spirituality, and the life that we live. I think you'll find it really interesting. Come along with me. It's a fairly short video, but I think this could lead into a much bigger topic. Come along. Let's talk about it. All right. So grab a cup of coffee, grab your water. Let's go on a roll. You got to have your coffee and water, and let's go on a roll. We're going to explore country music, kind of its historical aspects a little bit, you and I, here in this first segment. You know, country music kind of started in the early 20th century in the southern part of the United States, places like West Virginia, Tennessee, Kentucky, Florida, Georgia, those places. And this music represented the individual identity and the community life that was going on in these communities and in these homes every single day. And Christianity was often a very, very big part of that. Country music came from folk, Celtic, and gospel music, right? So it was kind of this big mix of all of this together, right? Christianity played the theme of Christianity, God, and spirituality played a big part, of course, in gospel music, in Celtic music, and in the rural American folk music that was very common of the day. Now, these songs talked about life. They talked about the hardships of life. They talked about the things that were going on. These songs were real life stories that appealed to an audience who was living everyday life. And Christianity was a very, very big part of that. And country music, in a lot of ways, pulled into the spirit and the community belief of a lot of these people. So how does country music and religion come together? It's pretty simple. It's just telling the story of a people, of a community, and of individuals. So yeah, that's kind of a history, a brief history of country music and how it kind of evolved and how spirituality got involved. So in many rural communities, the church served not only as a place of worship, but it served as a community hub, right? Like if we look at the Ryman Auditorium, home of the Grand Ole Opry, on Saturday nights, it was a place for country music. On Sunday mornings, it was a church, right? So, and this doubled a lot for a lot of churches throughout the South. And so these churches were a community hub. They were a place for social interaction, for cultural support. They were a time of peace. These places, as much as the European churches did the same thing in their context, these churches appealed to the community aspect of rural American life. And the kind of centrality of the church kind of creeped into country music. And religion, Christianity, and spirituality was kind of a common language amongst the people in the southern part of the United States. And that resonated with the listeners, very much so. So, and you'll see me looking down here at my notes because this is a fascinating topic. But at the end of the day, religion touched on their values and their core beliefs, and the role of the church in the community was really more than just a place of worship. It was a social hub, and it was a gathering place. And the music ended up kind of reflecting that. So country music, talks a lot about, personal struggle, forgiveness, redemption. It talked about overcoming heartbreak after a loss. It talked about overcoming alcoholism. It talked about the personal struggles of people. And, redemption, forgiveness, hope, these are all key tenets of Christian theology, right? So if you're listening at country music, the references to God and Christianity underscore the importance of the belief that people in rural communities had. And it was really kind of a shot in the arm, because you could, especially when you get into things like bluegrass, which we can talk about a little bit later. But country music and Christianity certainly go hand in hand, and the themes of redemption and suffering ended up working their way into this music. So we see Christianity, God, religion coming into the daily lives of people, even through the music that they were consuming. Well, one thing that I think makes country music and spirituality so unique together, right, is that so many of the artists were okay with talking about their faith and their beliefs. And this helped them connect with their audience on a much deeper level, on a much more personal level. So being able to relate to people, to show their faith, to show that they were real, to show that they had problems, but to show also that they believed in a higher power, really helped them connect to their audience. And I think people like Johnny Cash were always great at doing that. People like, of course, the Carter family, Roy Acuff, even Loretta Lynn, to, Dolly Parton, The Coat of Many Colors. There's so many references to country music, and these people were real, and they were raw, and they were authentic, and that helped them connect to their audience in a way that very few people could. And that's where the appeal of country music came into play at, because they weren't afraid to talk about their faith. They weren't afraid to live out their problems. They weren't afraid to say, hey, look, you know what? I'm an alcoholic, but I also believe in God, and I believe that there's redemption there too. So these people, maybe they were drug addicts and alcoholics like Johnny Cash, right? And they weren't afraid to admit that they were human and that they had problems. And that was the reality of country music. So country music, in a way, sort of helped Southern people realize that, hey, look, you know what? We have a problem, and it's okay to talk about it. Well, so country music in the audience, the country music audience traditionally hails from, an area, and we talked about this, where Christianity is really big. It's a dominant part of the cultural fabric, whether you're, from Alabama, Mississippi, wherever, right? It's a very big part of the cultural fabric. So by including these religious themes into your music, it speaks directly to a very large segment of your audience. And it reinforces really those shared values and those shared experiences that you each hold very dear. And these artists were able to convey these very important things to their audiences like nobody else would. And this connection, I want to stress this. This connection was not merely lyrical, okay, but it was also an essential part of the community. The communal experience. It was a huge part of the communal experience. And country music, it often was performed in settings like, charity events, and not just the bar rooms, not just, places like that. This was part of the cultural identity at festivals, at gatherings, different things like that. So country music was a fabric, and to some extent before this great mass deviation of music that we have today, country music was a real connection to the communities in which these people lived. And it was fascinating to see this. And you see artists today trying to reconnect with their roots, right? Their Southern gospel roots, and they're trying in some way to connect with their audiences and regain that. But that magic of being able to connect with your audience on such a personal level, you can only do that by talking about your faith and your problems and reality. Well, so there was a cross pollination between country music and bluegrass and southern gospel and all of these different things, and these songs within these genres not only praise God, right, in some sort of way, but they also kind of tell the stories and deliver these messages through kind of a spiritual sense. Like, Dolly Parton, I mentioned this earlier, Dolly Parton's Coat of Many Colors. My coat of many colors that my mother made for me, made only of rags. This is just such beautiful music, and, even somewhat Loretta Lynn, I'm proud to be a coal miner's daughter. I remember well the well that I drew water. We was poor, but we had love. There's one thing that Daddy made sure of. These songs, and even into the modern, where Johnny Cash turned around, the Nine Inch Nails song, Hurt. Johnny Cash that turned that into a deeply spiritual song like only Johnny Cash could, I hurt myself today to see if I still feel. I focus on the pain. It's the only thing that's real. The needle tears a hole, that old familiar stain. Trying to kill it all away, but I remember everything. And then, he talks like he's talking directly to June Carter Cash in this thing. What have I become, my dearest friend? Everyone I know goes away in the end. If I could start again 1,000,000 miles away. Yeah, this is, in a way, turning these songs very, very deeply spiritual. And even something that you wouldn't think was spiritual could be made into spirituality. So can we take the secular and turn it to spiritual? Absolutely. And country music has a way of doing that. So country music, it reflects on a very complicated interplay, really, of historical roots and cultural environments, personal beliefs, and just all sorts of things, these kind of communal values. And this blend really ensures that the theme of all of these things stays in concert with everything, right? And so, but before the 1980s, music was already well entrenched in traditions of weaving Christian themes, right? And I want to look at some of these songs here. You see I made my show notes today. And, songs like Will the Circle Be Unbroken, by the Carter Family, recorded back in 1935. This song is a traditional hymn that was adapted by the Carter Family, and it's one of the pioneering groups of country and gospel music, right? Will the Circle Be Unbroken? It speaks about the circle of life, death, eternal life, and these are themes that are really deeply rooted in cultural faith, right? Like, will the circle be unbroken? By and by, Lord, by and by. That's such a beautiful song. And I heard Greg Allman play this song once, and it was absolutely beautiful. Like the way that Greg Allman could only intro this song. I was standing at my window on a cold and cloudy day when I see that hearse come rolling, Lord, to carry my mother away. Only Greg Allman could do it that way. But so many other people throughout the history of music have recorded that song and made it such a great song. Another one was Red Foley, There'll Be Peace in the Valley. That was a country song, a gospel song that really talks about the redemption and faith of people in life. Roy Acuff's Great Speckled Bird, that's a classic, right? It uses certainly biblical symbolism, right? The great speckled bird. And in this context, the great speckled bird represents the church, right? And so that's great. George Beverly Shea, who for years went with the evangelist Billy Graham, right? Had How Great Thou Art, 1957, I Hear the Roar of the Rolling Thunder, Beautiful music. Very, very, very beautiful. The Old Rugged Cross, Ernest Tubb, On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, the emblem of suffering and shame. A beautiful music, man. Daddy sang bass. Johnny Cash again. You know, I love Johnny Cash. I'm a huge Johnny Cash fan. And, you know, Johnny Cash spoke to these social and cultural differences while still believing that there was a God. So Daddy sang bass, Mama sang tenor. You know, these were great songs. Here's one for you. On the wings of a snow-white dove, he sends his pure, sweet love, a sign from above. You know, Ferlin Husky, I think that was in like 1960. You know, it's a song about finding peace and divine help, right? So these artists weren't bashful about talking about their spiritual beliefs. And these songs that I've mentioned are just really just a small sample of how country artists have long used their platform to express their faith and their spiritual beliefs through their music. And it resonates with listeners who share a very, very similar value and cultural experience with them. So this has been kind of an overview of country music, right? And Christianity and gospel. I hope you've enjoyed it. Come along with me again. Please subscribe if you like what I'm doing here. I know these are just simple kind of hillbilly made videos because that's what I am, right? So I really hope that you and I can connect and we can resonate and we can talk about these things. And I look forward to hoping to connecting with you again soon and having more conversations about real life, spirituality and Christianity and our faith and culture in general. I'm Matt. Thanks for joining me. Again, if you like what I'm doing here, these are just kind of simple hillbilly made videos. But please subscribe. I'd really love it if you'd subscribe. It really encourages me and helps me to make more videos. Your comments are great. I really do read every single one of them. I dive right into them. I love reading them. I love engaging with you, my audience. Thank you so much. But please consider subscribing. Share this, comment. I really appreciate it because I enjoy making these videos for you, and I hope you enjoy watching them as much as I really enjoy making them. And, you know, I know they're just kind of sit here in a room in front of a microphone and a camera, and they seem kind of hillbilly, but, you know, hey, I'm a product of my raising, right? So anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for spending some time with me. I really appreciate it, and I look forward to seeing you again. Please subscribe. Thank you.